Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 33. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. And Dave, never had a bye week you weren't looking forward to with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would say won the bye week considering what else happened around the AFC North. So Pittsburgh sitting even prettier than they were coming off their Ireland win. So not as much to talk about today, but what there is there to discuss is good news for Pittsburgh. Dave, how you doing?
Yeah, happy Monday. It feels like a victory Monday, even though the Steelers did not play this past week here. And what a great week to hate watch in the AFC North if you do that kind of thing. Obviously, look, the Steelers have the Browns coming up, and that was the first game to be played overseas in London with the Browns and the Vikings. So I was up bright and early, try to get some early scouting out of the way of that game, and intrigued to watch Dylan Gabriel make his first start. And for a while there, looked like the Browns were going to end up winning that game, but they let it go at the end there. Vikings came back and won that one. And then you fast forward into the afternoon games, and boy, Houston just really put it on the Ravens. And so that was another AFC North loss. And then you already kind of were prepared for Detroit to kind of handle the Bengals, even though the Bengals did try to make it kind of interesting there in the second half there, but they ultimately went on to lose as well too. And you even got into the late the Sunday night game there, and you're thinking, all right, there's been a couple of weird kind of games. Let's just see a kind of a good football game, if you will. And the final undefeated team in the NFL went down last night, the Buffalo Bills, to the New England Patriots, in what was really kind of a sloppy game, I guess, overall, but it was at least competitive when it came to both sides there. And you come out of this with the Steelers basically, like you said, winning their bye week, if there is such a thing, with all three teams in the AFC North losing. The Steelers obviously had the week off and a chance to get a little healthier there. And man, you had to go back all the way to 2018, the last time the Steelers were on a bye week, and all three teams in the AFC North played and lost their games. So pretty substantial development there. The Steelers enter Monday Night Football as technically the number 3 seed in the AFC. And what a big opportunity this team has coming out of the bye week now, because not only do they play the Browns, and goes without saying, first AFC North game of the year, and the Ravens have a tough battle against the Rams, and the Bengals have to go on the road and play the Packers. So, if things go the way that you hope they will, as a Steelers fan, you could pick up another full game on all three teams in the AFC North in week 6. So it's a great day to be alive, and after tonight we'll get started on week 6 stuff.
What a great stat of the weird pull by you, Dave. How long did it take to find that stat? That's a lot of searching and clicking around.
Yeah, I had to go it took about 5 minutes, but went through each of the Steelers bye weeks over the last several years until I came up on one where the other teams lost a game there. Now look, the Steelers have had other instances where they have played and the other AFC North teams have played and all like that, but as far as bye week specifically goes, where the Steelers were off and the other three teams played and lost, 2018, week 7 of that season was the last time that happened there. And man, the Ravens, what's going on with the Ravens? Obviously demolished by injuries right now, and that we'll probably see some carryover carryover of that into week 6 when they play the Rams there. The Bengals, obviously, with the quarterback issue, not having Joe Burrow, a big part of what's going on there. And the Browns are trying to navigate through a rookie quarterback situation there. And yeah, I mean, that's why week 6. Look, you don't want to look too far in this. I am a bit surprised, and I know you wrote about this morning, and odds are odds, and that they are what they are. But I am a bit surprised that the Ravens are still kind of the slight favorites to win the AFC North at this point.
Me too, yeah, from ESPN Bet to FanDuel, those outlets still giving Baltimore the edge over Pittsburgh to win the division. I know there's still plenty of season to go and plenty of AFC North divisional play to go, including 2 Steelers-Ravens games late in the season, but you wonder how much those will mean if this track continues. At some point, Baltimore will get healthier. The end-of-season schedule is less intimidating than what they're going through right now, but 1-4 is 1-4, potentially 1-5. After the Rams next week at Pittsburgh beats Cleveland. No gimme, but if they win, they're 4-1. They have won the division every single time under Mike Tomlin, in which they've begun a season 4-1. So history is on Pittsburgh's side for now. Dave, usually we do our housekeeping. We talk about injuries and inactives and some of the minutia heading into Sunday action for Pittsburgh. Obviously, don't have that this weekend, but to still do our housekeeping Monday, presented by our friends at Touring Plans. If you're planning a trip to Disney, Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Lines, any Disney-related trip, that's the site you want to partner with to help you navigate your trip and your plan. From how to save money on tickets to know when the park is least busy so you're not standing in line for half your excursion, to restaurant reviews, insider tips, everything you guys want to know. Check out touringplans.com. Been a long partner of Steelers Depot, especially during our training camp coverage. Really appreciate Len Testa, who's a diehard Steelers fan, was in Ireland for the Vikings game, and so he had a great time there, sent me some cool clips, and he's a good friend, and it's a good people over there at touringplans.com. So in lieu of that housekeeping, just to set the stage in terms of where the AFC North sits, Pittsburgh 3-1, Cincinnati 2-3, Baltimore 1-4, and Cleveland 1-4. The AFC North, sans Pittsburgh losing for the second straight week. So the Bengals, Jake Browning, 3 brutal interceptions and a loss to Detroit 37-24. Baltimore, as you said, blown out by Houston 44-10, and Cleveland losing a tight one in London to Minnesota. So Dave, your thoughts overall on where Pittsburgh sits? It's obvious enough they're in a good place, but you really could not have drawn up a better start through 5 weeks in terms of the standings and records and outlook than where Pittsburgh's at right now.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, too, what injuries can do to a couple of teams and how the AFC North isn't really AFC North-like at this point. You go over the last 3 weeks of the NFL season, the AFC North is 3-8 combined, and the Steelers have 2 of those 3 wins. The other win, obviously, the Browns beating the Packers a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you can try to predict these things and have your predictions at the start of the season, and injuries can really change the scope of this thing in a hurry, and that's exactly what has happened with the Bengals and the Ravens. I mean, who in their right mind would have thought the Ravens would be 1-4 right now, especially with what was expected on the defensive side of football. Now, losing the amount of guys they have had or have done so on that defensive side of football obviously has played a key role in that. Anytime they don't have their quarterback in Lamar Jackson, that sets them back. But man, they all of a sudden they can't run the football. They can't play good defense. They're giving up on average over 30 points a game on the defensive side of football. And then once again, I understand at some point they're going to get some of these guys back, it seems like, but it doesn't sound like a lot of those guys are going to be available favorable to them this week against the Rams. And as far as the Bengals go, boy, what do you do over there at the quarterback situation? A lot of speculation that maybe they'll go out and trade for, I don't know, Russell Wilson. I kind of doubt they would go and spend the money on a big salary for say Kirk Cousins with Atlanta, but I guess you can't rule that out depending on how much money the Falcons would be willing to eat of the salary to get them gone. Just Mike Brown, that it doesn't feel like a Mike Brown move. It feels like if the Bengals were to do anything at quarterback at this point, it might be to trade for a Russell Wilson. But how do you get a guy to come in and get on board with the offense and the wide receivers? And enough where that would make a big enough impact at this point to me.
Let me ask you this. If you're a Steelers fan, do you want that to happen? Do you want the Bengals to get Russell Wilson? The benefit would be, the belief is the incentives would carry over from New York to Cincinnati, so Wilson playing more would increase his compensatory value. Of course, the downside is you're facing a more competent quarterback twice this season.
I don't worry about the Bengals being a threat to the Steelers. I don't think in the AFC North, if Russell Wilson were to come over, do I think he could potentially help them? Look, they got a lot of mouths to feed over there, and realistically, if the Bengals don't figure out a way to run the football, I don't think it's going to matter 1-1. Now, will the Bengals perhaps win a couple of more games? I think the benefit overall would be, as you kind of alluded to there, Russell Wilson starting to play more snaps, and hopefully it helps the Steelers in the compensatory end of things. But one for one, bringing in Russell Wilson at quarterback, especially in the short term, I don't. Maybe it'll help them against the Steelers in a couple of weeks from now and later on in the season, and then that obviously could pay dividends for the Bengals and obviously hurt the Steelers. But I think as far as the race goes in the AFC North, I'm not worried about it. I'm really indifferent to it overall. I think because Russell Wilson's still going to probably make some mistakes and do some things that turn the football over, some of the same things that Jake Browning's doing. And I don't, unless the Bengals find a way to start playing better defense and running the football and keeping opposing offenses off the field, I just think you're moving around the chairs on the Titanic, so to speak there. So Am I rooting for Russell Wilson to come to the Bengals for the sheer fact of how it might impact the compensatory selections? Not really. I'd much rather see them try to suffer through Jake Browning.
Same. I think it's better to face, because Wilson, even though he would make some mistakes, will get sacked a ton with his style behind that offensive line. It's still a bigger threat to get the ball to the playmakers, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I know that Browning and Chase found a couple connections late in the game. The Lions blew some coverages, but it's more valuable to have better odds to win now and to beat Cincinnati than it would be to go from a 6th to maybe a 5th round pick compensatory-wise in next year's draft. So I will root against that happening. We'll see. I think the Cincinnati Bengals should trade for Wilson today. Go get him in as soon as you can to give him as much time to get acclimated. I don't see why the Giants would want to keep him in the number 2 role. They have another veteran there in Jameis Winston. Wilson's a guy with a big arm. They can throw the ball vertically that I think suits the offense in a degree of getting the ball downfield to Chase and Higgins. So I don't know why that move is not being made, but I hope it doesn't happen.
And look, I mean, the Bengals' next 2 games are like we stated. You got the Packers on the road in week 6, and then week 7 they play the Steelers. If they lose both those games, I mean, it's pretty much over for them, right?
You would think so, to be 2-5 in that situation. And I don't know what their division record would be. Obviously, lost to Pittsburgh. I think they beat Cleveland narrowly in the season opener. So, but yeah, the odds would look really tough. And for Pittsburgh, these next 11 days will really be important. You got Cleveland Sunday, obviously, then the Bengals on that short week on the Thursday night game. So if you can come out of that 5-1, you're 2-0 in the division, man, you're sitting pretty. No guarantee. I don't want to look at these games as gimmies. Pittsburgh has split the season series against Cleveland each of the last 3 years. There's not been a season sweep since, 2022 or so. And the Browns have a really good defense. And I don't know if Myles Garrett wore Carson Wentz's the hat that you talked about, but he he came pretty darn close. Wentz was getting, I think, hit a couple times, and the defense certainly had their success against Minnesota, and Wentz almost got taken out of the game. He missed a little bit of time and then came back with a shoulder injury. So that Browns defense is certainly formidable, and Dylan Gabriel, I thought held his own in his first career start.
Yeah, I haven't gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. I obviously watched the game live, but I thought overall Gabriel represented himself pretty well. I think the most interesting stat when it comes to the Browns right now, even so, is the last time that they've scored more than 17 points in a single game. You have to go back to week 13 of last season.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this year, 5 games this year, right? So they've gone 10 games in a row where they have not scored more than 17 points. However, if you go back to week 12 of last year, they beat the Steelers at home. Obviously, in that was the snow game, right?
Yeah, the Thursday night road game, which Pittsburgh has a Thursday night road game against the Bengals in 2
Right,
weeks.
right. So, and that defense is formidable when it comes to the Browns overall. And look, I guess we can kind of start sort of segueing here. One of the main reasons the Steelers are where they're at right now, I think you look at the turnover differential at them being +7 as a key reason to one of the key reasons of why they're 3-1. The amount of sacks, as we mentioned, I think they entered this weekend as tied for second, I think, in the NFL in total sacks. And then this offense has been overall good in the red zone. The fact of the matter is this 3-1 Steelers team hasn't really put together a full game on both sides of the football just yet. Now they are trending. We've seen some developments, especially against the Vikings in some areas here. I would say overall this team's trending in the right direction, but it's not without looking at the tape and still saying, man, this team could still do a lot better, especially on both sides of the football. And I think one thing that we both would like to see and fans would like to see is the explosive plays go up on offense and go down on defense, in addition to the takeaways still being there, and the sack totals obviously still being there, and then the way this team's performing in the red zone staying there. So if with the explosive plays on both sides of the football not being great, this team's been able to overcome it by the takeaway department, the red zone department, and the sack department here. So this, and I think that's why they're really only 4.5-point early favorites against the Browns at home. You would think, man, it feels like they should be they should probably be a touchdown favorite over the Browns because of them having a rookie quarterback starting just his second game and having to do so on the road there. But I think it's mainly because of the Browns defense. So this isn't a gimme. This team better not be smelling themselves too much coming out of the bye week here, because this is an AFC North battle. This is a dangerous defense that they're going to face. And look, you look around the NFL, and I went on my soapbox the other day about, trap games and all like that. You just look at some of these things that happen around the NFL with Carolina and the Dolphins and
the Cardinals. Oh, what a disaster.
Oh, man. I mean, look, I know you can point to that one specific, that running back dropping the ball before going in the end zone, but those are the kind of things in today's NFL where one play can one error by one player in one situation can potentially turn a game around for another team, because this is the NFL, and you've got to be cognizant of that fact that there are no gimmies in the NFL, and I still stand by what I said, a couple of weeks ago when this team got out of New England with the win there. Wins in the NFL are precious, and they are earned no matter who you're playing. And look what Cleveland snuck up on. I still think the Packers are going to be a team that's going to be competing for a Super Bowl run later on in the season. You probably feel the same way as well too, but they still got beat by the Browns, right?
Yep, 13-10.
And they got beat by a Browns team with Joe Flacco at quarterback as well too. So Mike Tomlin better be settling these guys down, and letting them know that there's still plenty of work to do. It's still early in the season. Injuries could hit the Steelers just as easy as they've hit other teams around the league here. So this team must be focused, and they better take care of business at home against Cleveland. And if you do that, then you better take care of business on the road against the Bengals the following week. And if you do that, if you win these next two games, and if things break the way that you hope they do in the rest of the division there, they will really be in a good driver's seat there at that point.
They will, and well said. And Cleveland has a youth movement. There's a lot of kind of new people that aren't easy to scout, whether you're talking the running back Judkins or
Judkins
Gabriel.
Looks like he's the real deal, man. He even had a couple of called back on penalties, I think, or unfortunate things in that game. Now, and look, I mean, the tight ends seem to always their tight ends in Joku and whoever else over there always seem to cause the Steelers problems there. I don't think their wide receiver crew is all that, but I mean, it was enough for them to work with against a good Vikings defense overall. And the passing chart, while not extraordinaire from Dylan Gabriel, I mean, he spread the football around. He pushed the ball in certain situations. He got that first game underneath his belt, so he'll be a little bit better having that experience under his belt. And once again, this could be a dangerous game for the Steelers, specifically because of the way that Browns defense plays.
Sure, they ran for $140. Gabriel did well in the red zone, took care of the football against that tough Brian Flores defense in international water, so to speak, for a first game. A lot of tough circumstances there. There's Isaiah Bond at wide receiver, Judkins at running back, Gabriel at quarterback. So some unfamiliar names Pittsburgh will have to get familiar with pretty fast. We'll talk about that more throughout the week. I'm sure Mike Tomlin will highlight some of those points during his Tuesday press conference tomorrow. But it's a really good point that you made, Dave, about not taking for granted wins in the NFL. And that seems so obvious and so boilerplate to say, but Pittsburgh has won on the road against the Jets. Granted, the Jets look terrible this year, but still on the road against the Jets to open the season, on the road in Foxborough, and on the road, quote unquote, in Ireland. That in itself is tough to do. I don't care who the opponents are. I don't care the situations. That's not easy to pull off. The only loss this year has come at home. So I think Pittsburgh certainly deserves credit for winning in those more difficult environments.
Yeah, and look, you should be, this is a team that should be expected, at least on paper, to win some games at home, specifically against a team like the Browns. But look, you got such a high, you had such the gains in the bye week here with all three teams in the division losing. A lot of that goes away if you lose at home to the Browns this week, right? You're giving it back at that point. So there is a legitimate shot now, you would think, for this team to, at a minimum, go 4-2 in the division. We know how important that is, and heck, I mean, there's some people saying that now at this point, this team should be expected to go 6-0 in the division. I'm not there yet within that because they're going to face probably a healthier team in the Ravens when these two teams finally get together and have those meetings there. But at a minimum, the way the landscape of the AFC North is, specifically with Cleveland and Cincinnati, the expectations should be, I think, for this team to at least go 4-2 within the division. And if they do that, and you obviously get into the second half of the season, some of these tougher games that the Steelers have, because you still have the Commanders. What Commanders team? Or not Commanders.
Yeah, not Commanders. There's Detroit. There's Buffalo. The two Ravens games late in the year.
Right, and the Chargers, I mean, you still got Herbert and company. Who are the Colts? I mean,
Yeah.
Danny Dimes looks for real, at this point, looking at some of the tape or some of the TV highlights from their game yesterday. You got the Packers a couple of weeks from now in a big Sunday night game there that going to have your attention as well too. So there's still some possible L's. What will the Dolphins be come later on in the season? As well. So here's the focus. These next two games against Browns and Bengals really will help shape the season and maybe specifically the AFC North a little bit more. At the very least, you could potentially have a very nice cushion in the AFC North if you take care of your own business in these next two games. And that's all the Steelers should be focused on right now, and us and the fans as well too. It's easy to look at the rest of the schedule and start marking these down. Well, win here, potential loss here and all. But all this game that in a fantastic bye week that the Steelers had on Sunday here can all go to the wayside real quick, specifically if you lose at home this week to the Browns.
Well, we just saw this last year. Pittsburgh sat pretty atop the AFC North, wire to wire, the first, whatever it was, 11, 12 weeks, had a chance to clinch the division against Baltimore, and everything collapsed at the end with a tough schedule, and Baltimore ended up taking the thing. So Pittsburgh knows this story from just a year ago. In terms of the division outcome, nothing set in stone. Divisional play always difficult, but at least I would expect Pittsburgh to go no worse than 3-3, 500. And I say that because they have gone 3-3 against the division or better every single season since 2010. That is by far the NFL's longest streak to be 500 or better against your own division. The only other team that comes close are the Chiefs. Their streak dates back to 2013. Every other team is 2018 or later. The Browns actually had a pretty long streak for a while until last season it finally broke. So not that your goal is to go 500, 3-3. You want to go 4-2 or better. That should be the goal. But history says Pittsburgh plays their division as well as any team in the NFL. And even if you told me they only go 3-3, let's say they split all 3 games against the opponents this year, split against Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Baltimore, that should still set up Pittsburgh, I would think, favorably to win the division, even with that tough schedule at the end.
Yeah, look, I don't think anybody listening to this podcast, though, right now would be happy with this team going 3-3 in a division at this point.
No, I wouldn't be happy, but that's just the history. That's just
sure.
the history of it.
Sure, but I mean, the way this thing lays, look, I don't know if we're overselling this Browns game or not. That defense worries the crap out of me with Myles Garrett. They've got a good young middle linebacker, and they've got their secondary still put together pretty fine, and they've got another young edge rusher or two up front there. That team can play defense.
Right. So splitting that series is not a crazy thought to think, right? That you're going to split against Cleveland this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy, no, but I from where I sit right now, knowing that this Steelers team has not played their best ball, their most complete game yet. The way I look at it, this too, with this being a bye week and Aaron Rodgers coming in relatively late to the whole process and getting on, understanding what he has now. To me, the preseason ended Sunday. You know what I'm saying? The regular season starts now. Aaron Rodgers has played some snaps. He knows what he's dealing with on the offensive side of football. This defense kind of has an understanding of their new pieces and all, and have worked through some injuries through the first 4 games as well too. And while not great at times, it was enough once again with the takeaways and the sacks and all to get the job done, to get to 3-1. The way I look at this is you draw that bye week, or you draw that line in the sand after the bye week and say, all right, guys, preseason's over now. Here we go with the schedule,
Yeah. For a veteran-laden team like Pittsburgh, it has that feeling, and it's no surprise Pittsburgh looked a little bit off the first couple weeks and has progressed, and that I think is typical of veteran teams that don't play a lot in the preseason, and Pittsburgh's vets largely sat this summer. But just back to the thought, I mean, if I told you Pittsburgh's going to split the season series against Cleveland. That wouldn't knock you off your feet, right?
No, but I mean,
Because it's happened each of the last 3 seasons.
right. But the dynamics now with the rookie quarterback and all, and once
Hey,
again,
it's rookie quarterbacks. Pittsburgh's not as aces as they used to
sure,
be.
sure. But this is also a Browns team that is yet to score more than 17 points in their last 10 games as well, too. So,
Sure, no, I get that, but their defense can hold the scoreboard down, and Pittsburgh's offense has certainly had their problems against Cleveland in the past. But I'm just saying, I'm just trying to illustrate the point. That's not a crazy thought. In some ways, it's sort of my expectation. And with Baltimore, you're probably going to face a healthier Baltimore version. It's hard to face a even more injured version of Baltimore right now. You're going to see them late in the season. You would assume Lamar will be back. You never know what injuries will take place from now until then, but.
right.
Splitting against Baltimore, I think, is also not a crazy, outlandish statement to make, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that obviously when it comes to them, especially if they get some, have Lamar and a healthy Derrick Henry and get some of these pieces back on the defensive side of foot. Let me frame it to you this way, though: if at the start of this, well, just prior to week one, I would have told you that by the Steelers coming out of the bye week that they would be 3-1, and that the Bengals more than likely would be without Burrow for most of the rest of the season, and that the Browns would have switched over to a rookie quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, and then the Ravens going through the injuries that they're going to fight back for. If I would have told you, okay, Alex, I guarantee you can have what's behind door number
Oh, God. Here we go.
one. You can have behind you can take your chance at what's behind door number one, or I'm going to give you the Steelers at a 3-3 AFC North record. Would you have taken the 3-3 AFC North record, or would have waited to see what's behind door number one?
I don't think it's crazy to take the 3-3 record and just because at this point, if you could just maintain the lead, which is effectively what 3-3 does, then you're still in a good spot overall. But what it comes down to me is you split against Cleveland, you split against Baltimore. Can you sweep the Burrowless Bengals these next couple of weeks? You play in week 7 and week 10, I think. And the expectation should be that you sweep the Bengals. So to answer your question, I would take my chances and quote unquote gamble on going 4-2 by splitting Cleveland, splitting Baltimore, and sweeping Cincinnati, without Joe Burrow.
Right, right. That's why I think that anything 3-3 or obviously lower than that would be a huge disappointment for this team, knowing what we know right now.
Right, but 3-3, I think, is still within the realm of possibility of outcomes for Pittsburgh, even knowing what we know right now.
Okay.
But
I want more. I'll be disappointed if this. I'll be disappointed if this team goes 3-3 or worse at this point in the division.
Sure, I want more too, but it just a big picture thought that ultimately doesn't mean much for the here and now. The focus is on week 6 in Cleveland, which will present its own challenges, and divisional play starts from there. And again, Pittsburgh, I think it's been 5 times or 6 times before Pittsburgh started a season 4-1 under Mike Tomlin. They have won the AFC North every single season they have started 4-1. So from a history marker, this Sunday will be important. All right, Dave.
What are you? If you're Mike Tomlin, you get this team back in the building today, right?
Yep, bonus Monday.
What is your message to this team right now?
I kind of like your message of, all right, guys, here we go. We got the first couple weeks in. We knocked some of the rust off. We're healthy. Here's divisional play. I mean, the focus is always on this week, but so I probably wouldn't say this part, but these next, whatever it is, how many days till next Thursday? 11 days are going to be so important to the season. 2 AFC North opponents against Cleveland at home, only your second true home game of the season, and then that short turnaround on the road against Cincinnati. Find a way to win both those games. You're 5-1. You're 2-0 in the division. You're going to assume that the Ravens have not. I think they have a bye in week 7, but if the Ravens lose to the Rams and they're 1-5, man, you're sitting even prettier then. But yeah, the message is, all right, guys, it's divisional play time. This is where we're going to make our money at.
Yeah, I tell them kind of specifically, all right, preseason's over with now.
Yeah.
Hope everybody got rested up there. We accomplished a lot of good things. We're going at least in the right direction right now through these first 4 games. Aaron Rodgers has been here for 4 weeks now. He understands what's going on and what he's needs to accomplish and what he's working with there. But those 4 games, just consider it your preseason, boys, and it's time to get to work now. The regular season starts now. Would be my message. And how ready are you for 2 divisional games right out of the chute here? Because we got to have these next 2 games, and that's got to be the focus of this team right now.
That's a
That's the
great
way
point.
that's the way I'm approaching this with this team. You know, because what are the narratives going to be if they come out of the bye week here and they I don't care if it's a 1 point loss or it's a 21 point loss to the Browns. A loss is a loss, and it takes away everything that has happened good specifically during the bye week here.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of shades of last year. You started out 3-0, then you lost 2 in a row. You fell to 3-2, and you got better from there, obviously, until that last month of the season. But it'll have a little bit of shade of 2024. But yeah, I think that's well framed by you, Dave. So let's put you in the meeting room today and go talk to the team.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not. I would have a lot of cliches with 12 pounds in a 5 pound bag, and the standard is the standard, and all like that. But that would be my message: is preseason's over with now.
Yeah, well said. All right, Dave, any other thoughts here about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Mike Tomlin's press conference tomorrow should give a health update. You would expect generally good news. There's still been some good news on Calvin Austin. Nothing new, but we'll see if he's going to miss any time. What is his status for this game? We'll see how Tomlin characterizes him. The name to watch will be cornerback Jalen Ramsey with a hamstring injury suffered against Minnesota. Had the bye week to recover, but hamstring injuries can often be multi-week injuries. We've seen Joey Porter Jr. be out since week 1 with his own hamstring injury, so no guarantee on Ramsey. But Porter, you would like to think that Tomlin is going to be very optimistic about his chances of playing. Hope we'll see about Alex Highsmith as well. You'd like to think there's going to be a decent chance he returns, but his status is probably a little more unclear because he has not yet returned to practice as of this recording. We'll see what Monday brings off that high ankle sprain suffered early in week 2. So I think the names to really watch are Highsmith, Austin, and Ramsey.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have some late housekeeping for our touring plans housekeeping section here. You want
Okay.
to tell the folks what happened?
I'm not even aware of what's
Oh,
going
okay.
on right now. So
The Steelers have signed safety Jack Henderson to the practice squad today.
okay, so that's going to fill the spot of Sebastian Castro, who was poached by Tampa Bay last week. Henderson, one of several safeties who worked out for Pittsburgh last week, including Maxon Hook and Mark Perry and others. Henderson, I think he was at Minnesota. I think that's where he went to school at. He has not appeared in an NFL game. He has bounced around. All those guys were kind of in the same bucket of younger players who had yet to really find their footing in the NFL. So I might have to do a quick bio check on Henderson. I wrote up the article that day, but there were so many safeties they worked out. Yeah, he was at Minnesota in Tampa Bay. He's kind of bounced around a little bit, but he'll be the 17th guy on there. And that 53rd spot on the 53-man roster remains open, and we'll see how Pittsburgh fills that before Sunday's game, if they fill it, which they have not done the last couple weeks.
Little update for those keeping score at home. Sebastian Castro was active and in uniform for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. He did not play any snaps, however, on defense or special teams. So still a little bit of a newness there, obviously, for him. But he was in uniform. He just did not play any snaps for them.
In that shootout game that Tampa Bay came away with a victory in, that was a 38-35 or something. That was one of the game, maybe the game of the week, even with one still to play tonight. So good update there. We'll get that up on the site here. I'm sure people will see by the time the podcast is posted.
All right. Where were we there?
I honestly forget where we're talking about. So I just Tomlin, health injuries, Austin,
Oh, yeah,
Highsmith, Ramsey.
the health of guys. Austin and Ramsey, I think, are obviously two guys that were injured in that last game that are going to be interesting to watch here. I'm with you. You would hope that you get Highsmith, Porter back this week. Who else has missed due to some injuries here? I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's basically the list. Elliott came back, Harmon's back, obviously. So, Porter, I assume Porter's going to be back this week.
Yeah, here's something, it's hard to read into what these guys post on social media and all, but Jalen Ramsey on October 4th, which would have been Saturday, says gotta get right. So I don't know if I don't know what's that. It's easy to imagine that might be health, but it's hard to read into some of these vague things here. But and then I think you had one of you guys had an interesting post that over the weekend about don't forget about Beanie Bishop.
Yeah, I didn't write that. I think that was Joe or Ross, but we'll see if he gets in the fold. I mean, I'm going to work under the assumption Ramsey's not going to play this weekend and be pleasantly surprised if he does. And so it'll be Porter returning, Slay, and Eccles. So really just swap Porter for Ramsey. And they've not made an elevation since. I don't know if the acknowledgement of them running out of corners last week will maybe make them elevate a corner to make sure they're insulated against making sure they have enough guys to get through a game so they don't have a repeat of the Minnesota game. But yeah, Beanie Bishop. It's just the problem is Bishop's only a slot guy.
Right.
And that kind of limits you a little bit in the flexibility in terms of what he can offer for any in-game help.
And he's not a huge special teams asset either.
Sure, another demerit against him, but we'll see. But my assumption is Porter, Eccles, and Slay will be your top three, which is good enough against the Browns receivers who are not world beaters. There's some talent there. I don't want to be disrespectful. Judy and Bond, a rookie that can make some plays, but obviously it's about really controlling the line of scrimmage, winning up front. That's the way to beat the Browns.
Right, exactly. All right, so we'll wait and see what Mike Tomlin has to say on Tuesday, and it'd be interesting if Ramsey talks to the media today in the bonus day.
Not that Tomlin's going to say anything that'll catch us off guard, you wouldn't think, but is there anything you want to hear from Mike Tomlin during his Tuesday press conference?
I'd like to, we just talked about what our message was to the team coming out of the bye week and being fortunate to see what had happened around the AFC North in week 5 there. I would ask him point blank, it'd be wonderful after he runs down painting the Browns as Super Bowl champions and going over what the injury report, and he goes, all right, I'll open it up to any questions. My first one would be, Mike, what is your overarching message to this team coming off the bye week?
And the answer will be, who let Dave in here? Bert, get him out. Get him out of there. But yeah, it's a great question.
And beyond that, I would say, what does this team need to do to get better at producing explosive plays and not giving up as many explosive plays? Because I think that's one of the biggest bugaboos about this team as a whole. Coming out of their first 4 games, they've done a lot of things right. Once again, the red zone play for the most part has looked really good. This team is getting takeaways, and that's another big reason why they are where they're at, because they're +7, I think, right now. And then the sack totals obviously have been there. So what does this team need to do to get better on both sides of the football when it comes to explosive plays of 20 yards or more?
Fair. I think that's a good question. It's a standard answer or standard question that really wouldn't probably elicit a great answer, but I'm always interested in how teams use the bye week, what they study, what their points of emphasis were. If you were an NFL head coach, Dave, how would you use the bye? Would you use it into one of 3 buckets? I think is how you can kind of classify it. You self-scout yourself and see what you've done as a team, your own tendencies and where your team is at. You can do advanced scouting on your future opponent, that being Cleveland, of course, or kind of take a break and a mental reset to rest and get ready for the grind that will be the rest of the season. What would your approach be if you were an NFL head coach?
Yeah, I definitely want to self-scout. I mean, it is early in the season, though. I still feel like there's a lot on the table that we have not seen out of this team, specifically in 12 personnel grouping, which is this team obviously runs up there, if not the most highest percentage in the NFL to this point here. I think there's obviously some things to build on when it and take away from, to make sure that you're not predictable from what you have rolled out there. But I mean, we finally got to see a lot of heavy personnel with Darnell Washington, something that you and I have been calling for. And even though I know it's a big point right now. And what does this team what does this team need to do to be able to run more plays? That's
Mm-hmm.
obviously been a big thing. And look, Mike Tomlin will say it's game specific. It's just the way kind of the flow of the games have bounced so far. But look, the offense has got to find a way to either stay on the field longer with longer drives, or they're going to have more of these one play 80-yard touchdowns. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that duplicatable one play 80-yard touchdowns are not something that you're going to be able to expect to duplicate on a weekly basis here. But I just would like to ask, what does this team need to do to continue to work in this heavy personnel, but at the same aspect, try to find a way to get the ball in the hands of Freiermuth and Johnny Smith more in addition. And Mike Tomlin will say, well, we got to run more plays. 50,
Mm-hmm.
53 plays on average. You're probably going to have one or the other and not both. But is there a way to have both in a 53, 56 play selection here? So without it, once again, I don't want to take away what this team has done to get to 3-1 record. And I more than anything was, and I'm sure you felt the same way, was glad to see Darnell Washington. If Spencer Anderson on the field is what it takes to get some things done offensively, then so be it there. But in the same breath, you've got guys like Pat Freiermuth and Johnny Smith who can be used in the passing game that you expect to be utilized in the passing game at some point. So, yeah, I would just like to hear him talk about what does this team need to do to stay on the field more offensively, I think.
Sure, it's going to be important because you don't want your defense playing 70 snaps every single week, and by the end of the season, they're gassed because they've been grinding through 70 snap games, in the fall, in September, October. So that'll be important. Pittsburgh has not won time of possession battle, I don't believe, in any of their first 4 games of the season. So that'd be one stat to change against Cleveland. To answer my own question in terms of what approach I would take, it's probably a bit more self-scouting. Obviously, it's all the above. There's going to be advanced scouting. It's going to be self-scouting. It's going to be a little bit of rest and getting away from it all to reset. But in terms of the focus, it probably would be on who we are, and then we'll go attack the others as they come. Dave, the bye week is an idle time for idle speculation and rumors and beliefs. And as we get further into the season, teams start figuring out who are the haves and the have-nots. Some wide receiver trade speculations. So should Pittsburgh go make a move? The Saints reportedly, very blanket statement from their top beat guy, Nick Underhill, who said the Saints will probably listen to all their veterans. And, if teams want to make calls, the Saints will entertain them. Should Pittsburgh consider a trade for a receiver, or with the news of Austin's injury hopefully being relatively minor, missing a week or 2 at most, should Pittsburgh stand pat?
Oh, look, you obviously got to be willing before the trade deadline to do something at wide receiver for sure. And the Raiders over there have got a wide receiver that's probably not very happy at this point, right?
Yeah, Jacoby Myers, I'm sure, is not happy for a variety of reasons: lack of contract and the lack of winning.
And then you have over at the Saints, Olave, I guess, is a guy that's easy to kind of connect. And then with the Jets are going nowhere this year, and it brings in the conversation about Lazard. The biggest thing, or at least from as an outsider viewpoint on this, the Steelers, if they were to do anything, you would expect it to result in them not giving up a lot of draft capital when it comes, or high draft capital when it comes to 2026. So anything should be on the table. And no, I'm not talking about trading Alex Highsmith. I don't think I understand once again why that has become the talk and all, especially the way that Nick Herbig has played. But there's, you know, I just don't think now is the time to deal away Alex Highsmith, because we've seen how things can change in a heartbeat as far as injuries go, and this team is such a deep spot right now when it comes to edge rushers. You can never have too many of those, and that's one of the main reasons right now why this team is where they're at, because of the sack totals and all like that. So I am exploring trades for wide receivers, probably specifically the Jets, the Saints, and the Raiders, and trying to potentially get that done. That's not going to cost me substantial draft capital for 2026. Anything else outside of Alex Highsmith included within that should be on the table. And yeah, they between the next couple of weeks, yeah, I'm answering all calls, and I'm making as many calls as possible to probably one of those three teams.
That's a good question for Tomlin Tuesday. What is the plan if Highsmith is expected to return, which is how Tomlin may phrase things, is the plan of the rotation and snap count distribution between himself and Herbig. I know Tomlin will give his Tomlin answer of Highsmith's not even guaranteed to play, and we'll see, and we like all those guys. So I probably wouldn't get a great answer, but it's a good question worth asking and worth monitoring. Should Highsmith return? I don't think I'm making a trade for a receiver right now, Dave, because Austin's injury seems minor. He may not even miss a game. We'll see what Tomlin has to say. And frankly, are they going to use another receiver if they go out there and get somebody? I mean, history says, the current history this year says that they're not getting those guys hyper involved. They're more feast famine and getting a couple targets. Is it go worth trading and giving Jacoby Myers a bunch of money? I mean, he wouldn't do the contract in season, but he would want the contract, obviously, to catch a couple passes.
If I can make my roster better and not have to give up the draft capital for 2026 to do so, yeah, I'd do it now. Or obviously any time between now and the trade deadline. Now look, if you're going to make this deal this week, you're probably making it today or tomorrow before this team hits the practice field on Wednesday, obviously, right? And especially,
I'm not even talking about this week. I'm just talking about how much you entertaining the idea of adding a receiver. I was asking a little more big picture broadly than I was do it right now.
all right, yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah, for sure, I am.
But they can't even get Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith the football. What's to say they're going to get Myers and Olave the football? And Austin's playing well. Austin has been an asset this season.
I'd rather have too many problems like that to have of too many good players to try to get the football to, especially with how you could lose one guy or two guys in any given Sunday. If I can make the roster deep enough and I've got the cap space and the cash to get it done. And once again, all of this revolves around 2026 draft capital at this point. If I can get it done, I worry about the rest on the backside of it.
What is the max capital you're willing to give up? You said you do a deal, but you're not going to trade.
I mean,
substantial capital.
Anything beyond a fourth round pick, and
So
even
a fifth or later, or a fourth or later.
A fifth or later, if I have to give up a 2027 fourth or third or something like that. Not having some of these guys going to probably be on the roster that you trade for. A third's too much to come off of, I think, but maybe potentially a fourth in 2027 if it meant getting a guy like Myers or something,
Okay, but then I don't want to get in the weeds about Myers' situation.
Right.
Would you be paying him after the season? I mean, are you trading and just doing the rental thing? Well, his contract runs through when? I'm not even sure when his contract's up.
It's one of those things, once again, that I worry about more after the fact, because I'm going for the win now type scenario here. What is Jacoby Myers'
It
contract?
voids after this year.
Yeah, it voids after this year.
But Pittsburgh, I think, saw last year they trade for Mike Williams, who granted was Mike Williams. He's not as good as Myers or Olave. He's probably in that Alan Lazard type of camp, and they realized, and we just can't find a way to get this guy involved, and we're trying to catch a moving train, and it's just difficult. I think they'll be turned off by going on that receiver well again, unless there's an injury to Austin or knock on wood Metcalf that really necessitates going out there and making a move for a guy that comes in and starts right away.
Look, you bring in a guy like Myers specifically, that's going to make DK Metcalf that much more potent.
I don't know if it changes the equation. I think teams are still going to take away DK Metcalf because he's DK Metcalf. It just might create more favorable one-on-one opportunities for Myers. But again, Austin's he's come up clutch. He's done well. He's selfless. And anyone beyond those top 2 receivers, they don't get involved in the offense. I mean, combined, Skoranek, Miller, and Ramon Wilson have 2 catches this year. So I don't want to shut out Austin from getting targets too. And I feel like if I'm trading for a Myers or a Olave, I'm starting them, and that really puts Austin on the back burner.
Yeah, I'm still exploring it though, Alex.
Yeah, I think you might have those conversations. You might just see who's available because, as you said, one injury takes place and it changes your equation. You probably want to have some conversations already started. So if you had to ramp up talks, you would do so not starting from scratch. That's just best practices. But I would not make an offer unless there was an injury to one of these guys, or if Austin is going to be out for some longer than expected time right now. I think you roll with what you got.
Okay.
But we'll see. I'm sure those rumors will continue, and we'll see if Myers becomes available. And Olave also has the concussion issues too, and that's a little off-putting as well. All right, Dave, any other thoughts?
No, I think we hit on a lot of it there.
What is the most impressive part to the Steelers' 3-1 start? Take it however you want to take it. Dealer's choice. What is the most impressive part about Pittsburgh being 3-1?
I would say probably the red zone play on offense.
I think it's a good choice. I would say I'll go back to what I said earlier. To win those 3 games, not at home, at the Jets, at Foxborough, and then even though it felt like a home game in many ways, you're still traveling your entire team, your organization for the first time since 2013 to Ireland and all the unknowns there against a Minnesota team that had been undefeated and are now, 5-1 in international games with their London win Sunday. That is hard to do, and I don't take that for granted, and so to do that is really impressive.
All right, and this team is 9 of 13 in the red zone, 69.23%.
What's that rank? They were, I think, 7th or 9th entering week 5. Are they still sitting top 10?
Let's see what the rankings say real quick here for offense around the NFL red zone. They are 8th.
Okay, so top 10 is a great place to be.
And their points per game is 24, which puts them almost right slap dab in the middle of the league right now.
Yeah, PFR says that it is 16th, so that is the literal middle. Where should that ranking end at to be a good place for Pittsburgh? 16th is comparatively not terrible from where they've been, but you're hoping for something better, I would assume.
I would like to see it around 26, which would put you right near the top 10. I mean, they're going to win a lot more. They have a potential to win a lot more ball games the rest of the way if they increase that by another 2 or 3 points per game.
Yeah, I think call it 11th, which is essentially the top third of the NFL, even though it's 32 versus 33. You get the point. I would say 11th or better is the target.
All right, here's the thing. Baltimore is 28.2 points per game, but they're 1-4 right now. So
what's their points allowed per game?
Yeah, it's much worse. It is points per game for them. The last in the NFL, 35.4.
Yeah. So there's a yin and a yang, and they're feeling both for sure. Plus, they put up 41 on Cleveland whenever Cleveland was really, really struggling there early in the season. All right, Dave, any other final thoughts? If not, we can get to some reader emails and close out today's show. No live stream tonight, just part of our normal schedule. We'll be back next Monday, hopefully talking about a win over the Browns.
All right, let's see what we have here in the email machine. Probably a little bit light. Mike Shorter writes in, Is it appropriate to say we are seeing weekly progress with each facet of this team as compared to the last few seasons? Red zone TDs are up, defensive turnovers are up, run defense is looking better each week, secondary has depth, etc. This has me believing they will get better as the season goes on. Mike, all I will say here is that through 4 games, we have seen this team moving in the right direction, and especially in all the categories that you listed there. I would think that and once again, the reason I believe that this team's 3-1 is the takeaway differential, the sacks, and the offensive red zone production. Where you would like to see this team continue to make strides, I think, is obviously in the running game, and the explosive plays of 20 yards or more on both sides of the football. If you continue making strides in all the areas that you pointed out, Mike, and then in addition, the running game continues to tick in the right direction, and then you start creating a few more explosive plays on offense while decreasing the ones on defense. I mean, you can't help but win ball games, more ball games moving forward here. So I think the biggest thing that I'm looking for is continue the direction in some of these areas that you just mentioned, and then at a minimum, if you're not going to create a lot more explosive plays on offense, just don't give up as many as you've given up on defense. And that should help offset and keep you obviously in games if you continue to take away. You're not giving, you're winning the turnover battle, and you still get those sacks and all.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about being 3-1 and not playing your best football, not playing great football over that stretch, but you're going in the right direction. You played your best game of the season, I think, by far against Minnesota. So can you carry that over? It'll have to be done there. So yeah, I like where Pittsburgh's at, and I really like where they're headed.
And this definitely isn't a team that you consider that's running fine on all cylinders right now. So the fact that they're 3-1, they've got a bye week here, they are trending in the right way in several of these categories, gives you optimism. But I mean, all of that can change in 1 week here against the Browns too. So
Yeah, they're like an old, not the most knowledgeable on cars, old diesel engine. Takes a little bit of time to warm up and get going, but once you get going, you're in good shape.
Mike Gretler writes in, every year coverage gets more comprehensive and more of what your listeners can't wait to hear 3 times per week. And by the way, only select few who complain loud or care if you run long. Says, I've got 2 questions to bring to the 2-man roundtable. You speak as though the positive performance that was an obvious improvement over other weeks was a positive uptrend that is destined to continue. I don't know if we said it's destined to continue. Just I think we said that there has been positive performance that was obvious improvement over the weeks. I mean, I guess I kind of take, is it destined to continue the improvements that we've seen over the last couple of weeks? I guess would be the first part of dissecting his question here.
Well, it's not inevitable. It's not a God-given right that you're going to get better. And I made the point a couple times, I think including on Friday's show, that there's going to be ebbs and flows to the season. It's not just upwards and getting better and better forever every single game. There's going to be good games and bad games. It's how the NFL goes. It's certainly how Pittsburgh often plays. There's ebbs and flows. So, yeah, it's not, what was the phrase that he used? Inevitable?
Destined to
They're
continue.
destined.
Yeah, he says,
Yeah,
you speak as though the positive performance that was an obvious improvement over other weeks was a positive uptrend that is destined to continue. What makes you believe this is the case, if in fact you do believe the premise? After all, we believe in our team, but consistency hasn't been the hallmark of the Steelers for quite a while. Yeah, I mean, I think that last bit too. I mean, you want to see the consistency of this team improving on a week-by-week basis, for sure.
you do. I mean, I get the point about you haven't seen the consistency, but you have seen more consistency in Pittsburgh than most other franchises. And not to not to tout the stat, but they have been competitive and in the playoff race and above 500 or 500 and better every single season of Tomlin's career. So that is a marker of consistency. It's not the standard. It's not the goal. It's not what I'm shooting for. But I would say in a lot of ways they have shown more consistency relative to other NFL teams. But the premise itself, it's not destiny, but it's reasonable to assume you're going to get better as you get healthier, as you have these veterans who knock some of the rust off, as you gel and coalesce. Aaron Rodgers not getting full practices until late July, defense with a bunch of moving parts, replacing over 10,000 snaps. Oh, as you said, Dave, it's kind of preseason over. And so that's why you would think you would like to get better as the season goes along.
Right. And I think one of the overarching things that we said coming out of the bye week, at least that it feels like we should be excited about, is the fact that defensively, I mean, this team lost Joey Porter Jr. and Deshaun Elliott, first, through the first game of the season, then had to go the next, couple of weeks without those guys, and obviously still waiting for Porter to get back. So, they were able to weather that storm, if you will, and it's exciting to think that, we'll see what happens with Ramsey and this injury and all like that. I mean, what is this doing? And you obviously didn't have Harmon for the first two games, and he's trending in the right direction in these two games that he's played in now. You saw Peyton Wilson have a better showing this last time out. You know, the the thought is man, if you're able to get this full complement of this defense out there all playing together, what will that look like? And then on the flip side, all right, the run game still isn't there yet, but you're at least seeing more signs of, well, that one almost popped. You want to go from, oh, that one almost popped to let's see if some of these things pop big time, there. Then once again, Aaron Rodgers, 4 games under his belt now, has got a better idea of what this team's trying to get done offensively. He knows the caliber of players that he has on that side of the ball. He knows the offensive line situation, and this team's able to win with this shorter, crisp, ball out, quick passing game. They find a way to manage wins that way. And, if they start doing things more consistently on offense, you would have to think that these safeties are going to come up and, they should be able to push the football down the field a little bit more. So based on what we've seen right now, there should be the level of positivity that this team has not played their best games on both sides of the football, but they have the potential and the personnel coming back to the team. You would think that would allow them to start playing even better, whatever that looks like on both sides of the football.
Agreed, and well framed and phrased by you. Slipped my mind, but also you would expect Jaylen Warren to return against Cleveland. I would imagine Mike Tomlin will provide that update, at least some sort of status report on Warren in his Tuesday presser.
All right, buddy Richard Jameson back in here, right? At the quarter point through the season and during the bye week, I think it's a good time to look at the progress of some young players. How would you say these players are coming along? One, Peyton Wilson. All right. Peyton's been really inconsistent. I think the best thing right now is we saw him play a very good downhill game against the Vikings. And there have been some miscommunications and all, but you're only as good as your next performance coming off of whatever your last performance was. So I would say at least coming out of the game against Minnesota, feels like the arrow's going back in the positive direction with Peyton Wilson.
Yeah, again, hopefully one of those upward and onward type of guys playing his best game against the Vikings. I just want to see him be more aggressive downhill, attack the run, see it and hit it. The talent's all there. So, just having that talent come together and be realized.
The second one he has listed is Jack Sawyer. I will just say that Jack Sawyer, on a weekly basis, seems to be a lot more comfortable in the defense, and he has been a great find when it comes to special teams play, and Mike Tomlin has hit on that. Overall, I'd say it's an incomplete still on Jack Sawyer, and we've got a lot to learn. Still, he's not. Look, he was never advertised to be one of those bendy type of guys. I think the way he's going to win in pass rush situation is with technique, and it looks like he's picking up some of this stuff from Watt and Highsmith and Herbig and all like that as far as ways to attack opposing tackles. He has been able to play on both sides of the line after playing predominantly on the left side of the in college at Ohio State. So I would say the big plus with Jack Sawyer so far is he hasn't, to me, really cost you hugely on the defensive side of football, and he's been a positive on special teams.
Yeah, he's been a good number 4. He had a good rush against Arisaw last week. I know Ross McCorkle tweeted that out and probably should have been called for holding against Arisaw that they didn't call. So he's played the run hard. He's done his job. He's been assignment sound, seemingly. And as you said, Dave, he leads Pittsburgh in special teams tackles. And I really appreciate the buy-in for a guy like that. He was the guy at Ohio State, Captain Jack. He was, a 5-star recruit out of high school. I think that's a nickname they call him, 5-star. So those are guys that don't have to do the grunt work of being left guard on punt coverage and the up man on kick return and that kind of stuff. And for that guy to come in, do that selflessly, know that's going to be his job in the NFL as a backup number 4 outside linebacker and do it well is really, really big. And being a good technician is how you amount a bunch of tackles. At least it certainly helps in terms of staying clean and defeating blocks. You're doing it in a different way than yours, edge rusher, setting the edge against the run or rushing the passer. But being able to use your hands and beat blocks one-on-one is how you get off of blocks and make tackles on the coverage teams. He's doing a good job.
All right, the last player he has mentioned here is Roman Wilson, and I don't know what better way to frame it, Richard, than just it's just an incomplete data, tape situation when it comes to him. He's obviously not playing a lot of snaps on a week-to-week basis. I don't know if we've learned all that much more about Roman Wilson than we knew coming into the season because of that, and it's still kind of an incomplete on him. I think the big test for Roman Wilson, when and if it comes, is if he's inserted into a game and he's asked to make a couple of plays or 2 or 3. I don't know how to frame Roman Wilson anything other than an incomplete still right now.
You're right. Is there any criticism for how Pittsburgh is using him or not using him? A 3rd-round pick, healthy now, and has played 12 snaps the last 2 weeks combined?
I mean, once again, what do you want to, how many things do you want to see within a 53 average play selection on offense per game, especially when you've got most of us out here clamoring to get Darnell on the field and do something in this run game, which has taken Spencer Anderson getting an uptick of snaps, and then on the flip side, you got people pushing, want to see more of Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, and I think people are happy with Calvin Austin when he's been on the field and what this team has been giving him. I mean, you can only throw 11 guys out there at a time on offense, so he's just going to have to wait and bide his time, and it's hard to give a guy. We've seen Ben Skowronek, what this guy can offer you on offense, specifically when he's not getting the ball thrown to him. It's just, Roman's just that extra mouth right now that, it has caused him to have an incomplete.
One thing I wonder from the self-scouting aspect, I'm just pulling up our charting on the fly that our Tom Mead does. Pittsburgh has been in 3rd and long, defined as 3rd and 7+, 3rd or 4th and long, 25 times this season. They have used 12 personnel. Of those 25 times, 11 occasions. Should that number change? Should they be more traditional 11 personnel in those obvious pass situations? Or should they continue to have a healthy amount, about 40%, 12 personnel, given the investments they've made in tight end and Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith?
Well, if you're going to run 11, that means you have one tight end on the field. Who's the tight end you want on the field in that situation?
Sure. Well, it could rotate, you would assume, between Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith.
All right. And as far as the 11 goes, I mean, if you're, obvious, you're in obvious pass situations. Could they have found a way to, and look, Scotty Miller's a heck of a playmaker, but you got a lot of empty routes with him as well, too. I mean, it feels like if I guess the question is, could this team have found a way maybe to get Roman Wilson on the field in a few more of those 11 or a few more of those third down situations when they've chosen to go 12? And I guess the short answer is yes, they probably could have.
Yeah, just looking at the numbers, and it's a small sample size, they've not been successful out of 12 personnel. Of those 11 occasions, they've only converted 4 of them, one of which was a DPI, one of which was an Aaron Rodgers scramble. That was the one that he fumbled that Broderick Jones recovered against Minnesota. So I've only had 2 true passing first downs out of 12 personnel out of those 11 plays. Again, small sample size overall, but not particularly encouraging numbers. Now, I know in 3rd and 7 plus, your conversion rate's not going to be great no matter what across the board. 11 personnel, I don't know exactly what it's at. Looks like only 2 as well, so not having much success either way, but something to consider.
All right, one last one from Taylor Carpenter here from Athens, Ohio. He says, "Go Bobcats." Dave and Alex, enjoyed your Pat Meyer discussion on the recent podcast. I'm in agreement with Dave that Meyer should have developed the O-line talent more over the last 2 seasons and needs to hit the bricks after 2025. Here's my question. Could it be argued that Broderick Jones has actually regressed as a player the more coaching he has absorbed from Pat Meyer? His rookie year was his best year when he came in and played right tackle. The further away from his college coaching and more coaching he has taken from Meyer, the worse he has played, in my opinion, he writes. The same may be argued for Fautano, although he played limited snaps as a rookie. Curious of what you guys think. I'm just tired of watching games every week where the offensive line looks so much more in sync than the offensive lines look so much more in sync than ours with equal or less talent. Fair question. Look, I mean, the fact of the matter is that you've still got a lot of questions about these 2 tackles 4 games into the season, and although it has been better the last 2 games, it the offensive line as a whole is just not where it goes back to what I said the other day. It feels like this offensive line, due to the pedigree at least, should be further along than where it is right now. If you want to specifically say that, I don't think it's so much that Broderick Jones has regressed as he just hasn't progressed the way you would have hoped he would have.
Yeah, I, I think both are true. I think his best tape was his rookie year, and he's yet to really recapture that. And it is a little confounding that Pittsburgh has seemingly had a couple guys in that situation, be it Broderick Jones, a Peyton Wilson, a Keanu Benton. I think back to Artie Burns, who played his best ball earlier in his career than later. I think regardless of whether it's he's getting worse because of Meyer or not, he's not progressing, and that's the bottom line here. Now, I mean, he's progressed in the last couple weeks, but just the overall arc of his career is not where he needs to be. We'll see how the season plays out. If that progression continues, then we'll have a much different conversation by season's end. But I think the discussion is less about regression or not, and just more about where is Jones at currently, and is that good enough and acceptable, and who's to blame. It's harder for us to tell from the outside, but obviously the offensive line coach should wear a lot of that because there was so much, and is still so much riding on this young offensive line playing like a top 10 unit.
Come get me on Monday morning after the Browns, because look, we all know that this defense that they're going to face in the Browns with Myles Garrett and a couple of other guys that they've got on that front there, they're going to move Garrett around. He's going to attack both of these. And look, I think overall from watching the TV tape of the Minnesota game, they did a fairly good job of keeping bodies on Garrett, and he didn't hugely impact that game. What did he have, like 2 pressures or something like that? They did a good job, at least when it comes to Myles Garrett. But there's other guys on that defense not named Myles Garrett. But more than anything, these 2 young tackles are going to get it's going to, they're going to need help. It goes without saying.
For sure.
And let's see what it looks like on Sunday against the Browns when it comes to both these young tackles and the arrow.
No, agreed. And then you got Hendrickson the week after, and Parsons the week after that. So I talked about on Friday's show, a big stretch coming up. I would say it's more Minnesota's personality to keep the tight end in. Hawkinson does a little more of that type of stuff. I know Tomlin spoke about that leading up to the Vikings game. It's a little bit less for Pittsburgh to want to do that. They want, Frymouth and Smith to be out there in the pattern. So great question for Tomlin is, what is the plan against Myles Garrett? You're not going to get the full answer, obviously. And this is not a new matchup, facing Myles Garrett and squaring that circle, but that'll be a big one for sure.
Myles Garrett damn sure better know who Darnell Washington is.
Yeah, that's got to be the plan. I mean, that's your ultimate. Not the only thing you do. You don't just do one thing to stop Myles Garrett, but it's got to be a lot of Darnell chipping the heck out of Myles Garrett, right?
Right, absolutely. You can't, you can't let that guy game wreck the thing,
Right, which Pittsburgh has done. Honestly, okay, the best thing to do against Myles Garrett is get the ball out quick. And
Right.
Rodgers is aces at that. The numbers are clear, but that is how Pittsburgh has avoided Myles Garrett from, generally speaking, not wrecking games. Like, everyone would give Dan more credit about how great he was against Myles Garrett. He wasn't. The ball would just come out in less than 2 seconds. And
Right.
that's how you stop Myles Garrett, is don't give him the chance to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, don't get in third and long situations, and in other situations, get the ball out quick. Don't give him the time. Don't give him the opportunity to wreck the game, and he won't wreck the game.
Exactly. Now, there will be times where you inevitably will be a third and long, and you will have
Right.
to drop back and do something. So that's whenever you go into chip mode with Darnell and give a lot of help.
All right, got through some emails there. I think we're about an hour and 25 or so into this. So we made a good show out of the Steelers not playing on Sunday, I think, and we will be back on Wednesday to discuss the injury situation with this team, what old Mike Tomlin had to say on Tuesday, what maybe some of these other guys have had to say throughout the media, and then obviously as we look ahead to Friday, hope to have our Browns beat writer on to preview the game. So that's a look ahead to the rest of the week. So in the meantime, as usual, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, we have an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button, follow the directions that way, get a username and password, and make sure to hit the login button to use that username and password to take advantage of the ad-free version of the site. So until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.